We come today to one of the most vivid scenes in the Gospels. Jesus has come down from a mountain with Peter, James, and John, from a mountain where Jesus had been transfigured, a high spiritual moment. And now the next day, Jesus comes down to the valley to find his remaining 9 disciples arguing with the teachers of the law, and a crowd has gathered. And so when Jesus arrives, he asks them what they are discussing. And in the Mark account, one man in the crowd comes towards Jesus, kneels down, and answers Jesus. He says, "Teacher, I brought you my son, possessed with a spirit, which makes him mute. And whenever it seizes him, it slams him into the ground, and he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and stiffens out. I told your disciples to cast it out, and they could not." So they bring the boy to Jesus, and the evil spirit in his presence immediately starts manifesting. And so Jesus asks the father, how long has it been this way, this infestation by the spirit? And the father answers him, he's been like this from childhood. And so I want you to notice the drama, because there's parental agony here. Which mother here, which father here on earth, which human being cannot connect with the agony of the Father in our account? How terrifying for us all when we come to a place where we are powerless to help our child. I know children do not understand this until they themselves become parents. But you know what I mean. The child has been robbed of his childhood, his peace, his dignity, and his freedom. And the father is powerless to help and has lived with years and years of heart-sore anxiety and grief. And in his desperation, this is the beautiful part, the father finally brings his son to Jesus and to Jesus' disciples. However, Jesus' disciples fail. And so there is great drama in the valley. And like vultures, the teachers of the law pounce on the disciples' failure, using it to discredit Jesus and his followers. But then Jesus steps in. Doesn't he always step in? He steps in, and the boy is healed of the impure spirit. The evil spirit is told to leave and never return by the King of Kings. I love the authority that Jesus has in the text. Now afterwards, the disciples come to Jesus in private and ask him why they could not drive out the demon. And in Matthew chapter 17, verse 20, Jesus says, "If you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." In the Mark account, Jesus says to the disciples, this kind of evil spirit cannot be driven out by anything but prayer. And so how many of you have prayed for a mountain to move, to test this text? I know of people who have prayed it, just to test, and then the mountain hasn't moved. But of course, when Jesus speaks of this mountain, he's not talking about a literal mountain. This is proverbial language, a Jewish idiom for overwhelming obstacles, great problems, or seemingly immovable challenges. I recently journeyed in my legal practice with a couple who were both working for the same employer. There was so much hurt due to the manner in which they had been unfairly dismissed. The husband is in his 70s and the wife is in her 60s. They'd worked together at the same place and then both been dismissed. The husband has medical problems and they had no other meaningful income to speak of at date of dismissal. With no income at the age of 60 and 70 and with medical problems, you are in serious trouble. It's a life-threatening situation, actually a great problem, a mountain. And so we did pray together on top of it all, and months went by. She had a very specific and has a very specific skill set We tried to get jobs here in Rustenburg. I phoned a few people I knew. She applied for every job she could, but there was no joy and no money and great stress because this mountain was looming. But then, to save the day, she got a job offer from the Cape, a job offer that fitted her perfectly, a job offer which even this great doubting Thomas speaking to you today must admit can only be a job from heaven. God moved their mountain on his time, in his power, and in his way, and in such a way that he gets all the glory. There are many mountains that you may come across in your life's journey. You will find yourself in places where you have no power to save yourself. And the mountains often come when you least expect them. And let us be honest, our mountains are not always identical, and sometimes we find ourselves all alone with Jesus in the dark valley of that mountain. People care like the disciples did for the boy in our text, but the moment is often so great that you instinctively know that only God can sort this out. In that sense, mountains are almost always, if not always, profound moments of opportunity to meet with God. There is the mountain of debt or financial stress or unemployment. How will I be able to provide for my family? There's the mountain of marital distress, argument upon argument, just spiraling into deeper and deeper disconnect. There's the mountain of cancer, my body being ravaged and not knowing what the outcome will be. Pain and suffering, worrying especially for my family. The mountain of years and years of addiction, so that you wish the mountain would just fall on you and end your shame. The mountain of depression, chasing you like a black dog, chasing you like a black dog. The mountain of isolation, no one really cares, no one knows me. What is the meaning of life? Why do I even exist? And so we face many mountains, but there's this sweet interaction between Jesus and the father of the boy, which you and I should take note of. The father says to Jesus, "But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." And Jesus says to him, "If you can, all things are possible for one who believes." To which the father of a child cried out and said, "I believe, help my unbelief." And so, yes, it is so that we face moments of unbelief in the face of our mountain. But Jesus calls us to believe. Jesus can move your mountain. And if you read the text carefully, you will see that Jesus does not ask you for a mountain of faith. He asks for faith like a mustard seed. Tiny faith is okay. It is always, when it comes to faith, a question of quality, not quantity. You do not have to do 1,000 prayers. You don't have to go and save the world so that God will save you. It's not in quantity. It's in quality. Think of the woman with the issue of blood flow in Mark chapter 5. She didn't even speak to Jesus, but she believed, if I touch his clothes, I'll be healed. That's an example of quality faith, and Jesus simply answered it. Faith is only as powerful as the object it trusts in. God must be the object of your faith in great simplicity, because for you it is impossible, but for him it is not impossible. There's this cautionary tale in 1 Samuel chapter 4. The Israelites, losing to the Philistines, decided to bring the Ark of Covenant into battle, thinking its presence would guarantee victory. But they lost anyway. I love that account, by the way. Why? Because their faith was in the Ark. They had like this magic kind of faith that if I do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to get victory. Their faith was in the Ark, not in God. There is no magic formula to be followed with God. It's deeply and simply relational. The only solution is God without formula. Pray with simple, quality faith. 100 prayers are not needed. Quality prayer is what is needed. Why did the disciples fail, you may ask, and I will tell you that is a very difficult question. I don't actually agree with half of the explanations that are given. To me, it appears that they had begun to rely on their association with Jesus, not on him. And Jesus' frustration is evident when he says, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you?" The church today often mirrors the disciples. Religious, the church is religious, it's present, it's associated with Jesus, but it's powerless. And why is the church powerless? I would say simply because a lack of quiet prayer issuing from quality faith. A lack of quiet prayer issuing from quality faith. Lots of activities, lots of association with Jesus, lots of who's and ha's, lots of church building activities, but little power. May God consider our hearts today and help us to move from quantity faith to quality faith in the face of our mountains. I close. The true measure of your healthy faith is not if the mountain moves, because God is sovereign and you do not know how long you may live in the shadow of the mountain in its valley. You don't know. He moves the mountains as he determines. And that's the God I want, the God who is not subject to my will, but who is the God who makes me subject to his will. And here's the thing, the Apostle Paul reminds us in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 to 3, that even faith that moves mountains is nothing without love. Listen to this. Though I have all the faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. You see, the ultimate expression of true spirituality is not spiritual power, but Christ-like love. Faith may move mountains, but love moves the gospel and moves hearts. Love is what caused Jesus to heal that boy. Love is what drove Jesus to the cross. Love is what made the main mountain obliterate. The main mountain being our sin and our separation from God. And love is what must drive our lives in the valley and on top of the mountain. May you have the faith that moves your mountain, and may you have the love that moves the gospel in the valley and on the highest mountaintop. May God bless you so. Amen.